It's been 12 years since Caesars Superdome in New Orleans last hosted the big game. The decade since has been defined by the NFL's own Caesar, Patrick Mahomes. His Kansas City Chiefs, imperious and all-conquering, recently crowned AFC champions yet again, they arrive in the Big Easy looking to make history. A win on Sunday would make them the first team ever to take home the Lombardi Trophy 3 years in a row. Where better to celebrate than historic Bourbon Street? Rue Bourbon is known to throw a party like no other, a fitting venue for a once-in-a-generation Super Bowl win. But this is the birthplace of jazz, and the virtuoso running back Saquon Barkley has plans to spoil the Chiefs' party and make some beautiful music of his own. A well-drilled Eagles band conducted by Jalen Hurts has emerged on top of the NFC for the second time in 3 years to set up a rematch of Super Bowl 57. The tram has long since left the station. The path to victory won't be smooth or straight. On the banks of the old Mississippi, as night falls over one of America's most beautiful and storied cities tomorrow night, we'll see whether it's the Chiefs or the Eagles who go marching in to win. Live from Caesars Superdome, it's the Irish NFL Show's Super Bowl Preview.
Hello and welcome to the Irish NFL Show, coming to you live from the Caesars Superdome here in New Orleans, Louisiana. My name is Shane Brennan. Beside me is Brian O'Leary, Noel Dowling, and Kieran Boyle. It is for our big Super Bowl preview today. We got a hell of a show lined up for today. Pat Leonard from from New York Daily News is lined up to talk about Eagles, and Matt Derrick will be here later to talk about the Chiefs. But first, guys, welcome. It's kind of unusual that we're here in the middle of February. It's been hot. It's 26 degrees here. We're going around wearing a lot of dark clothes, considering it's we're supposed to be in a sort of subtropical climate here in the bayou. You got the right idea bringing that.
I know I'm used to this. You know, I'm from Florida. I packed accordingly.
Well, Brian, of course, this isn't your first rodeo. This is your fourth Super Bowl.
Fourth in a row, yeah.
Yeah. How does the scenery in New Orleans sort of compared to you? Obviously, from myself and Noel and Kieran, is our first time on Radio Row. You've seen what the city is like. You've been experiencing the heat. We've been trying to get around this place, and all the Ubers being blocked up, but the parades been going around. The Louisiana State Band was going by our hotel this morning. There's a lot of color going around, and certainly a lot of excitement from both Chiefs and Eagles fans.
Yeah, I suppose, again, I'm fortunate this is my fourth, and each city we go to is a very different experience. From LA, Arizona, Vegas last year. Similarities to last year in terms of the craziness. If you go to Vegas, anyone who's been to Vegas will understand the experience and the nature of being there. It kind of has that similar vibe about it. Last night, obviously, it's very full of Eagles fans. That's one thing I've acknowledged. And it seems to be the general trend when you go to the Super Bowl these days. I remember the Bengals fans essentially taking over SoFi. In terms of the expectations over the course of the week, Radio Row surprised me a bit, because I thought Radio Row on Friday in particular was crazy, and I saw over the course of last year it kind of tailed off a little bit on the Friday. Didn't get that sense yesterday. Don't know if it was a case of other people are traveling home for the weekend, so they're doing their work up to Friday evening. But yesterday was chaotic in Radio Row.
I think it was the buzz of the Irish is going around, because, of course, we got announced that we're getting a game as Pittsburgh Steelers are coming. We have the whole offseason to talk about that. We'll focus on the Super Bowl. Kieran, you were like a kid in a candy store going around yesterday. It's like you just spotted anybody you recognize that came up with a phone and being like, hey, can I talk to you for 30 seconds, Chris Sims? You really enjoyed that experience.
Oh, absolutely. That was like you said, I was like a kid in a candy store yesterday. It was a phenomenal experience just from walking through. You got Dan Marino walking past you here. Emmitt Smith is to your left. Dion's over here on the corner. And it's just, Hall of Famers left and right. Had a great time. Talked to Chris Sims, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. Had a great conversation with Ross Tucker. Talked a little O-line with him. I mean, he's a former O-lineman with a lot of teams. Talked to Greg Cosell, who's an expert NFL analyst. Sean O'Hara, too. Talked to him, two-time Super Bowl winner with the Giants. Talked to him a little bit about the Eli news about not making the Hall of Fame came out the day before. So, he's a great friend of his. He played center to Eli as quarterback, so they're still best friends. So, get the feel of how he's feeling, how Eli's feeling about that news. But yeah, phenomenal experience. Seeing everybody up close and personal was a great thrill. It was a phenomenal day.
I have to say, I felt a little bit sad walking around this morning for a few of the fans who seem to have booked this trip, expecting their team to go far. A lot of Bengals fans in town who are very much on the anybody but the Chiefs bandwagon. A few Lions fans going through today. There was one family carrying this big crate of beer behind them, even though, what time we had breakfast this morning? 9 o'clock in the morning?
9 o'clock, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like if I was a Lions fan, I'd also be drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning. If I'd gone all this way thinking, okay, yeah, we're going to have a great year this year. Oh, no, the Commanders knocked us off in the first round. So certainly the way the atmosphere has been building, Noel, has been incredible. Obviously, this is your first time at a Super Bowl as well. What has your reflection been on what New Orleans, the city, is bringing, the kind of fans around? Because sometimes with these sporting events, there's a feeling that, things kick off here, could be a bit of trouble. Everyone's just kind of just sitting, relaxing, enjoying it. There's parades going around. There's people throwing beads outside of floats. Nothing else happening after the beads are thrown, thankfully. So what has your impression of the week so far?
Yeah, look, it's been amazing. I mean, I think it surpassed what I expected. You obviously build up something in your mind on what an event is going to be like. But the one that got me was, you mentioned that there's so many different jerseys here. It's sort of in a way like the Wembley games where every team seems to be represented. Well, here, there are a lot of different jerseys that I kind of didn't expect. Obviously, it is dominated by kind of Eagles jerseys. You see that the most going around. I actually had an Irish NFL t-shirt on today and got mistaken for an Eagles fan. So, that's the kind of way. But it's just been great fun. The atmosphere this morning at breakfast really felt like it was ramping up. You talk about it, the marching bands, just the people in the street, the families in the streets going around, and everyone seems to be in good form and looking forward to it. So, yeah, look, it's amazing. We've got the weather, we've got two really good teams and a great city, and it's just all coming together.
Yeah, definitely Brian's idea to make sure that we were wearing Eagles green all week. Isn't that right? If you're very much in the Eagles bandwagon as an NFC.
Who picked the colours for the new tops? Me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I also got mistaken for an Eagles fan. I made it very clear that is not the case. I know it ever will be. Trying to get around is entertaining. Vegas last year was busy, but you got around. And I suppose we're well used to getting around Vegas. But here it's been topsy-turvy, even trying to get downtown last night. Look, it's a unique piece because, as you said, there's people going to the game, but there's a huge contingent of fans who just want to be in the city, embrace the opportunity to be at the week of the Super Bowl. And you will see tomorrow, every bar will be full with various different jerseys of fans. It'd be interesting to see what the split is, because I don't think it's as convincing as everybody wants the Chiefs to get beaten, because I spoke to quite a few last night on the NFC side of things that were like, no, we've no issue with the Chiefs. And if the Chiefs win 3, it is what it is. They're the best team in the league.
I know. I think there's a lot of people who sort of appreciate greatness, and I think a lot of people are maybe sort of buy into what the Chiefs are doing, and they want to be in the city for when something historic happens. No team has ever done a three-peat, of course. I've been here since Monday. You were saying about getting downtown. I spent Monday and Tuesday walking around the city. I thought it was very easy to do, particularly during the daytime, all around the river. But it was funny. I kind of ran into a few guys in the bars, and they were like, "It's a Super Bowl on this week." There's a lot of tourists still in town who have no idea there's a Super Bowl on. It was kind of a sort of nasty surprise to see, streets being shut down for buses going through. When the team buses go by, they get surrounded by like 24 police bikes. This is crazy. You never see that for the All-Ireland final. The Galway team coming through a bus. You'd be lucky if you have, a guard and a push bike sitting in front of them. So, obviously, Kieran, you're more used to the American way of doing things. We were going around town earlier, the way obviously things have been locked up. We see where the Chiefs and where the Eagles are staying. It's downtown. It's a busy area. Do you find that there's something about being downtown which may actually become distracting for the players, or what has been your sense as to how a lot of players have been able to deal with the pressure of Super Bowl week?
Well, these guys are professionals. I mean, they're used to going away for training camps. They're used to going away. Any road game. They're locked down in the hotels, so they don't have to worry about that stuff, especially for something like the Super Bowl. There is pure focus. There's nothing going to distract them. They could be 20 miles outside of town by the airport. It wouldn't matter. Their sole focus, they're not going out walking around. Their sole focus is on getting prepared for the game and nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting one as well. I mean, whenever we've been to a lot of media days between going to the opening ceremony here on Monday night, which is crazy because at the same time when someone's trying to ask a question about asking Dallas Goedert about being able to get past whatever the Chiefs defense can go to, me, and somebody else coming in being like, "Hey Dallas, what's your favorite color?" And you have like Guillermo from the Jimmy Kimmel show going around trying to get a few content. He asked Andy Reid if he's looking forward to doing the threesome, whatever that is. So I'm not even quite sure if that made the cut on the TV. It's been an incredible mix. But then once you get the players actually in the hotel situation, you're able to talk to them a bit more about the game. It's interesting to see how all of them are able to compartmentalize and deal with this kind of thing. I think Harrison Butker and a few of the Chiefs talked about how much the faith and prayer has been key to them. So a lot of the Eagles guys talked about themselves having a college college locker room setup. They really like that kind of vibe within them. You've obviously covered a few Super Bowls and talked to players from the last couple of years. What do you think is the key difference between somebody who lets the occasion get to them and somebody who comes in with the kind of right sense of bravado? Because in fairness to the Chiefs, they've been here so many times, the third time in a row, and they walked out on the stage here on Monday night. They were geeing up the crowd. They knew that they wanted to be here. They knew that this was a place where they felt like they belonged. And we've seen in so many sports, not only American football, where the occasion get to people sometimes. So what do you think is the difference there?
Well, it's continuity and consistency of making it to championship games and making it to the Super Bowl. And by and large, once they tweak their roster year in, year out, by and large, the mainframe of the teams that have been going to the Super Bowl and even championship games prior to that is still in place. It's still in situ. So they're well used and well versed at how to go about it. I asked Jimmy Johnson the other day around how would Andy Reid prepare the team in terms of his speech and motivating the team the night before. I don't think he has to do much because there's a huge opportunity. We're here tomorrow potentially witnessing history. We've never had a team in the NFL win 3 Super Bowls in a row. But it'd be interesting to see the dynamic of what he has in place in terms of how he speaks to the team tonight. And it's not like they're going up against a team that would be overall be the occasion, because the Eagles were here 2 years ago and similar scenario, but most of those players are still in situ. Again, tweaks here, big player coming in such as Saquon Barkley. Obviously a big day for him, so much expectation. I mean, he really has been the focus of all the attention throughout the course of the week and the conversations. But I don't think we're going to get a situation tomorrow where either team are going to be, overall with a situation. The enormity of what's ahead for both teams. So you've got the Eagles who are, potentially stopping historic occasion, and then you've got on the other side the team. Can they get over the line? Is there a situation where the pressure will become too much? But we've seen, all season long with this Chiefs team, they just grind out these victories. And I know we're going to get into the nature of both teams now shortly, but if it comes down to that late drive and Patrick Mahomes has the ball, you have that inevitable feel that he will get it over the line. It'd be interesting to see the dynamic of where we are coming the fourth quarter tomorrow.
Very good. Well, we're going to take a quick 60-second break, and after we come back, we're going to get into the X's and O's of Super Bowl 59. But stay with us. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Alrighty. The Irish NFL Show. Myself, Brian, Noel, and Kieran are still here at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. We're going to get into the X and O's of the game today. We're going to save our picks for the end of the show, but I guess we have to start with the players and the stars that we know who are going to light up our screens. If you are watching, of course, make sure you check out the Buskers on the Ball official Super Bowl watch party in Dublin. Check that out if you are around town. For us, though, here in the stadium, of course, Saquon Barkley is, as you mentioned there, Brian, is going to be such a big talking point. And Noel, I was chatting to you guys earlier. We were saying off air that X Factor is really what you need to take down a team that brings such an aura of greatness. We saw that Tom Brady was able to do that against the Chiefs, and Joe Burrow was able to do that against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Maybe that's the difference between this Eagles team and the Eagles team in Super Bowl 57, is that now they have a running back who brings that X factor into everything they do. I know Connor was mentioning in the show we did beforehand that statistically speaking, the run game of the Philadelphia have isn't actually as good as it was 2 seasons ago, but that doesn't negate or sort of take away from the fact that Saquon Barkley's ability to pull out plays can really change games, as we saw the first time he got the ball in the NFC Championship game. What is your take on Saquon Barkley? Because obviously he's had an incredible season. He's in a new club and is thriving in a new situation. But this is probably the toughest challenge he's come up against. And it'd be very interesting to see whether he'll be contained by the Chiefs defense, or whether he'll be able to flourish and score points in the way that a lot of Eagles fans will hope that he can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, you talk about the stats previously about how maybe the run game stats were a little bit better previously than now, but that, stats can be a little bit deceiving at times. Sometimes you just need, as you say, that X-factor player who's going to be able to go in there and finish the job. We look at what he's done this year. He's got over 2,000 yards, and he really does feel like he is that final piece to a jigsaw that, a talented Eagles team needed. They have the players, they have coaches there, but it just didn't seem to be able to get it over the line. You bring in a hard hitter like Saquon Barkley, and it changes everything. I mean, this Eagles team now, I think they were second in the league in terms of rushing the ball, and obviously ahead of them is Baltimore. We know what weapons they have there. But between Hurts and Barkley together, they've really brought this game to the next level. And yeah, I mean, this is his toughest test now. This feels like it's the Chiefs' defense toughest test, and it's Barkley's toughest test in terms of going up against a defense, which I know we'll talk about later, and the stats they have in terms of stopping running backs. But look, this is a player who has shown the talent he has there. He's shown what he can do to teams. And they have a good offense there around them that they can kind of mix it up a little bit. And it's going to be really interesting to see now a player who, has done so much to carry this Eagles team, what he can do now against a Chiefs team who we know what they're like in the Super Bowl. This is what they do year in, year out. So it's a fascinating and fantastic matchup to be watching.
Kieran, we've all seen Jalen Hurts play over the last couple of years and how he's been able to change his game. I think he was definitely the spiritual leader of this group when they came to this stage 2 seasons ago in Arizona. The team has been able to spread out the ball a little bit more this year. Obviously, they're still reliant a lot on the offensive line. The tush push is still something they've been able to get in. But we have to, I think, give Jalen Hurts more credit than we have during the season. I certainly have been talking him down a lot during the season, his ability to turn out plays and to win games on his own, because we see across the league a lot of quarterbacks who can win a game by themselves. You think like Lamar Jackson, even Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, who of course won the MVP the other night. Jalen Hurts, I think, was that player a couple of years ago. He's been a little bit sort of not bet into the system, but the way he's been able to play, I think, has been relying more on the team around him. But I think when the team will be able to count on him to do something special, to make sure that his passes are accurate, to not fail under pressure, do you feel that he will be better prepared to do that now than he was 2 years ago? And in fairness to the Eagles, they did build up a 10-point lead early in the Super Bowl 57 before end up they just couldn't get that job done.
Yeah, well, what makes Hurts' job a hell of a lot easier is the O-line. I mean, he's got, obviously, we're talking about 2 teams in the Super Bowl with arguably the best O-lines in the game. Now, when you put somebody like Saquon behind that O-line, and then when you have Jalen Hurts has that option that if nothing's open and, he's able to just, hand it off to Saquon, bust out the left, bust out the seam. But with Jalen Hurts, I mean, we saw what he did against Washington. I mean, he opened everything up. He just turned it on and he put up some big numbers. That's not going to happen against this Chiefs defense. Now, this, everything is kind of starting and stopping with that Chiefs defense. I'll go into that in a little bit, but with Hurts, this is it for him, really. I mean, this is a guy who, has struggled, in the last couple of months with this offense, struggled getting the ball downfield. Now, he's got weapons that most teams would love, Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. In order, in my belief, in order for the Eagles to be competitive or to even, win this game, the ball has got to get into the hands of Smith and Brown. And that means he's going to have to get moving. Now, we're talking about the injury he's got. I'm sure that's not going to be a factor once game time starts. But, this is going to have to be it for Hurts. He's going to have to show up today or show up tomorrow and make sure that he's getting the ball out to those wide receivers if they're going to have any chance to win the game.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a key difference in this Super Bowl and Super Bowl 57 is I know people are talking about Jalen Hurts' injury, but it's less of a concern now than it was 2 seasons ago. And even in that game in Arizona, which you were at, Brian, he still managed to play, I think pretty well. It was just a case that the team sort of fell away later on in the game.
What I would say, if they had got out the right side of that game and won, he was the MVP. He rushed for touchdowns in that game. He had a monster touchdown to A.J. Brown in the second quarter of that game, right in the corner. The accuracy of that show is unbelievable. We came down to a situation where Patrick Mahomes things. They were 10 points down. They came back. They won with a late field goal, and they left little time on the clock. But if that game had went a very different way, we wouldn't be talking about a quarterback coming back to the Super Bowl. We wouldn't be talking about a 3 people. We would have been talking about a scenario where he's back 2 years later looking to win his second Super Bowl. So I wouldn't be concerned about him going into the game. I'm concerned about the injury because we didn't see enough in the Commanders game. Yeah, he played a bit better and he spread the ball out, but I didn't think the Commanders were at that level. When we did our preview for that game, there was too many mismatches for me going into that particular game. He played reasonably well, but he hasn't been truly tested. He got that injury against the Rams. He didn't really have to, it wasn't tested properly against the Commanders. He's had a fortnight now to kind of prepare, rest up. So it will be interesting to see how he plays. It's a different dynamic. It's not a match on turf. You know, every Chiefs victory in a Super Bowl, and the one they lost was all on proper grass. It's the first time they're going into a Super Bowl on turf, and it might be more beneficial to Saquon Barkley in terms of the breakaway speed and for Jalen Hurts in the run pass option.
Karen, we'll move on to talk about the Chiefs defense. Of course, these are two teams who offensively don't give up many turnovers and defensively manage to get key turnovers, which are important in swinging the momentum back in the way. We've seen that throughout the playoffs. Steve Spagnuolo, we know, is a defensive genius. Somebody as a coach, even as a coordinator, could potentially be going to the Hall of Fame. Certainly there have been calls to that over the last couple of weeks. Those calls will grow brighter if the Chiefs do complete the three-peat. But in terms of the talent and the game plan that the Chiefs have going in, you know, is it important for them to really try to get past the Eagles' defensive line and get to the quarterback, or will they try to be sort of containing the other weapons outside of Jalen Hurts?
Well, I mean, you can't discuss this Chiefs defense without talking about Spagnuolo. I mean, this is a guy who's, I mean, he's proved it with the Giants in 2007. I mean, there's a stat out since Spagnuolo took over in 2019. Nobody's no team has put up 100 rushing yards in the playoffs. And obviously we've got Saquon on the other side of the ball. Is that going to be a factor? So now you got the immovable object versus the unmovable, the immovable force, the immovable object. So which one is going to give way? But this Chiefs defense, I mean, it's just loaded from top to bottom. I mean, you start with Chris Jones up at D tackle, phenomenal player from Mississippi State. Just the crazy thing about both teams, the drafts they've had have been phenomenal. Almost everybody on that Chiefs defense was drafted, whether second, third, fourth, seventh round. And that's just testament to how you build a team. You start with the draft. Free agencies are nothing's guaranteed from a big name. You draft the players, and pretty much every player on that defense has got 2 Super Bowl rings, if not 1. And they've drafted pretty much everybody except for Drew Tranquil, who came from the Chargers. But, you know, that's, you know, what they're going to do against Jalen Hurts. Generally, they blitz a lot. Now, they go usually in the regular season 35% blitz rate. Now, what's great about Spagnuolo, he does kind of a mug blitz where he has the linebackers going to the A-gap, looking like they're going to rush, and they drop back. What Spagnuolo loves are athletic, fast, hard-hitting, whether it's safeties or corners. So we already have Chris Jones in the front, and you've got linebackers like Tranquil, Nick Bolton, who I compared to Fred Warner from the Niners, a phenomenal athlete. But what sets this defense apart is their absolute physicality between Bolton, Trent McDuffie at corner, Watson, Justin Reed. These guys hit, and they hit ferociously. So that's, you know, you have these guys coming along the edge, and a big matchup out of all the matchups in the game is going to be A.J. Brown and Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie's a huge big hitter. A.J. Brown loves to get out and make these catches. If he gets an early catch, McDuffie is going to launch into him and knock him on his butt. So that's going to set the tempo for this game. But like I said, Spagnuolo loves fast, athletic, and hard-hitting corners, which is what the Chiefs have from top to bottom. I mean, that linebacker core of Tranquil, you know, Chanel, and Nick Bolton, that's a phenomenal unit just by itself. And that's not even talking about the secondary. But, you know, Spagnuolo is going to dial up all sorts of plays. We've seen this all year. He shows blitz. He drops back. Now, the thing with the blitzing, Jalen Hurts, you got to be careful if you're going to blitz because he's got the legs. He's very mobile. I know there's a little talk about the knee injury. I don't think that's going to be a factor in the game. But, you know, you blitz, you better get to him. Now, of course, you got the Eagles O-line. They're one of the best in the league. So you got to have to get to him if you're going to blitz. So you're going to see a lot of different packages from Spagnuolo, dropping back. You know, he likes man coverage. So you're going to see all those different packages. But like I said at the start, you cannot talk about this defense without Spagnuolo. He's a genius. He's going to dial up every single playbook, every single play in the book. He's going to be ready for this Eagles team. But, you know, it's going to come down to, again, this game is full of intriguing matchups. I already talked about McDuffie. You know, now it's going to be, you know, Saquon and the Chiefs run defense. That's going to be a massive. I already talked about the 100-yard thing. What's going to change? Are the Chiefs going to hold serve and keep that stat, or is Saquon going to break out for a 50, 60-yard run? But that's going to be a really intriguing matchup. But, you know, just to sum up, like I said, Spagnuolo is, you know, he's somebody who's been there plenty of times. He knows what's ahead of him. So I would expect a lot of different packages and this Chiefs defense to be ultra aggressive and just hard hitting all game.
Right, Brian, we're talking about what happens when the Eagles' offense to defense is on the field. Let's go to the other situations. Obviously, this Chiefs offense is being led by it's the biggest stars in the league. We talk about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, and so on. But what's been important for them is the fact that they've always been able to win situations and not win stats. Only once this year have they been able to score more than 31 points. That was the AFC Championship game against the Buffalo Bills. They've had to play against in so many tight games. Yeah. I was talking to Julian Edelman, who made the point earlier this week that that's a good thing for the Chiefs, because they have built the mentality to win those close games. Because when you are at the very, very top, the people have put a target on your back and they throw their absolute best stuff at you, because coaches are looking for a pay rise, players are looking for a pay rise, and all that kind of stuff. So when it comes to, I guess, the ceiling as to how many points that the Chiefs can score here, because they haven't been able to put up a lot of points, but they have been able to, when they've needed to, just completely take over situations when they need to go and win games. That's the difference, I think, between the Patrick Mahomes mentality and the mentality of so many other players across the leagues. The fact that it's about getting the W and not about getting the stats. And that's been a big part of how they've attacked this.
Yeah, that's it. We discussed that actually Thursday night about situational football, as I like to call it, during the show. And people are kind of asking us, how are you going to stick with a team that's put up so many points in terms of the Eagles? But like, it's just, we've just run through there what this Chiefs defense can do. They've the nature of this team is unbelievable in terms of nothing gets to them. No situation gets to them. We saw early in the season on the road in SoFi against the Chargers, not playing their best football, down by 10 points, up against the Harbaugh Chargers. You think, okay, they're in trouble now. No, find a way to come back. We saw in the playoffs time and time again, struggling. And then it's not that they're struggling. I think we have to acknowledge, and it's very much to the piece around Kieran's discussing, I don't look at the Chiefs team anymore as, oh, this is a Patrick Mahomes-led team, and we're going to get wonderful touchdowns like the back when Tyreek Hill was the speedster there. Yes, they brought in Moody, in the draft, and he's in his own right, he's had a fantastic season. They bring in Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, players that understand the nature of what's required to help this team win. And I think you called it the last time. There's only one game this season, which was the championship game that they put up over 30 points.
Yeah, 32 points, the most they've gotten, which against the Bills.
They're a 16th ranked offense in the league. They're middle of the road, but they're not middle of the road because they know how to get the job done. They've got the best quarterback in the game, in my opinion, and he can push this team through in difficult situations. But I'm keen to see tomorrow is how effective Pacheco can be. I actually spoke to Matt Derrick, who's going to come on shortly. We did a podcast recently, and I said he's come back from the injury because he was on IR for a large part of the season, and he hasn't come back and played at the level in which we saw last year. And Kareem Hunt has been much more effective to a certain extent in terms of he's the one they go to when they're in the red zone. And Pacheco's numbers have fallen off completely. It'd be interesting to see, will he come back and play like the nature in which he played last year's Super Bowl, where late on he was running through that 49ers defense. But yeah, whilst they haven't had the numbers that people say, oh, this is going to be a shootout, and can they live with the Eagles team? I'm not entirely sure we are going to get the shootout tomorrow. I think we're going to see a very strategic, tight game, and it'll be interesting to see how, as I said, come to late in the game, Patrick Mahomes can put these drives together. You saw about 10 points down against the 49ers. They were 10 points down against the Eagles. They were 10 points down against the 49ers last year and came back. And they never 10 really...
points down when against the 49ers in Miami a few years ago.
Yeah,
as well.
And offensively, they never really got going that game. But then, in the tight spots, overtime, very similar drive to the one in which they beat the Eagles, where Patrick Mahomes has that huge run, puts them in a position to win the game, and obviously they have the walk-off touchdown. I'm not concerned going into this game. There's been a few people over the course of the week in Radio Row, even back home, saying this offense is going to get shown up tomorrow in terms of they won't be delivered this Eagles team. I don't buy it. I think they'll be absolutely fine. I think Andy Reid, as Matt Derrick will tell you, he has a playbook for preseason. He's a playbook for the regular season. He has a playbook for the playoffs. And I imagine he has something ready and dialed up for tomorrow as well.
It's funny you mentioned about Isaiah Pacheco, because when you look at what the Eagles defense are putting up against them, I think the big thing for them is the fact that, yes, they will try to put pressure on the quarterback. We know that it's often a tactic that works, particularly in big games like this. But I don't know. I was just looking at the way that the Eagles defense should approach this game. Patrick Mahomes actually throws more interceptions when he's not under pressure. And you look at the cornerbacks they have between Quinn Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay. That secondary in Philadelphia is pretty strong. They're good at getting turnovers. They're good at getting defensive scores. And as well as that, I mean, they are the number one scoring defense in the league for a reason. And it's not always been about pressure. Vic Fangio has known how to always keep things tight, keep things close into, I certainly think that the way that they trying to mark out Travis Kelce is going to make a huge difference, because we know that Travis Kelce is the man in the playoffs, but at the same time can sometimes be the decoy for whatever the Chiefs are trying to run in this.
Fangio was brought in as an advisor 2 years ago. He was unemployed at the time. He was brought in as advisor to the Eagles for that one particular game, the Super Bowl. I believe, if you read the reports, was they asked him to come in because they wanted to understand the nature of how to deal with Kelsey. They couldn't deal with him on that particular night. He had a good game. He had a scoring touchdown on the opening Chiefs drive as well. So he's obviously brought in 2 years ago. He's back. He's in fully as defensive coordinator. He's had a very good season in his own right in terms of what he's done with this defense. But yeah, it's playoff Kelsey has come alive again. It'll be interesting to see how they can contain him tomorrow.
Yeah, but in terms of the mentality of the game, though, I think the big thing the Eagles have to do is bring the game to Kansas City. If you let Kansas City set a tempo from start on, forget about it. You've lost. And again, we've talked so much about how KC have managed to win close games, come back from behind in key playoff situations, as they've had to do so many times in the Patrick Mahomes era, and they've been so successful doing. But if this Philly defense doesn't get key turnovers, doesn't get off the field pretty early, doesn't get enough pressure on the quarterback, doesn't know when to not pressure the quarterback, plus you know that Patrick Mahomes is a mobile guy as well. I think it would make a huge difference. And I think that if much we talk about Saquon Barkley and the helicopter is coming over, I think it's make sure. Definitely not big fan Joe trying to listen.
They heard you.
But in terms of the game plan that Fangio has, no, obviously it is important to bring the pressure early, to try and get results early, to get momentum from the start of the game. I've often said on the show that you can't win games by only playing one good half of football. And as much as we talk about Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts and all the offensive weapons we're going to see on this, we're all, I think, anticipating a pretty close, tight game. Chris Brockman is the only person I spoke to this week who's anticipating a shootout. I think we're all anticipating a game of 60 points or less, 50 points or less even. So in those situations, getting a good start and having a good game plan from the beginning and being able to use those cornerbacks in that secondary that I mentioned, knowing when to blitz, knowing when to try and back down pass is going to be key. And Big Fangio, I think, will be probably the most important cog in that system. It does to make sure that the Eagles will be able to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes early.
No, absolutely. We talked about Spagnuolo with the Chiefs, and Vic Fangio has turned into that for the Eagles. I mean, look, he's such an experienced coordinator. He has game plans for this. I mean, Jalen Carter has really come into his own there. He's become a game wrecker. He's going to be an important player to try and get pressure on Mahomes. You mentioned the DBs there. I mean, we talked about the Eagles in the last couple of seasons, who were a really good team. Defensively, they were good up front and getting pressure, but they had a problem in the secondary. They've addressed that in the draft, as you mentioned, by Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. So, yeah, I think Vic Fangio has all the plays there in that playbook to bring pressure. Yeah, they're finally gone, thankfully. I think he slowed down deliberately above us. I think he's just messing about.
Our show is so intriguing. The helicopters have to make sure they're listening.
He was wondering who it was in the security zone, probably.
They're trying to find out. Yeah, but no, look, as I say, Fangio is a hugely experienced coordinator. He's gonna have his own little playbook for this. Brian talked about the way the Chiefs have their certain playbooks. Fangio's going to be there like that as well. They have some really, really good young players there who can make differences in games. And as I say, for me, Jalen Carter is going to be a player who's going to be really important in this game, and we'll see if he's going to be able to devise something up to get him through to Patrick Mahomes. But it's going to be fascinating. Both sides of the balls, both teams, on and off the field, they just have so much stars, and the coaches and the players, and it's just going to be a fascinating game.
I thought that we were not in New Orleans, we were in Inglewood again with all the helicopters going around. I thought we were in some sort of like it's a music video or something. They're all going over. We're going to make sure that the airspace clears out, and we're going to come back with Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News in 60 seconds. But stay with us for the rest of the show.
Welcome back into the Irish NFL show live from the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. Delighted to have Pat Leonard from New York Daily News, the Talking Balls podcast, has come on the show. Pat, great to have you back on board.
Great to be here, Brian. Really excited about this.
It's been an interesting week for yourself. You've been very busy in Radio Row. What's your take on the experience of New Orleans this week?
Oh, it's been fascinating. It's a little hectic, a little chaotic. You hear some Go Birds pretty loud, around the buildings as you're walking around. Interesting that it seems like there's some Chiefs fatigue around the NFL community, fans, ticket prices, people selling tickets at face value right now. But I think the biggest story going into this probably is, can Saquon Barkley and the Eagles cap an all-time season for an individual player? And then obviously a three-peat is a three-peat, right? So if the Chiefs can do it, whether people are tired of it or not, that's incredible.
When we think back to last August in preseason, and we were going into a season in which the Cowboys had won the division, and we always have that stat that the NFC East team comes back and wins back-to-back divisions.
Yeah. And
I'm not entirely sure everyone had the highest expectations for this team because of the nature in which the season ended last year. It looked like they derailed after that Chiefs victory on the Monday Night Football last year. Sirianni was coming off. He was quite outspoken in that particular game, and it kind of derailed thereafter. They were comprehensively beaten in the playoffs, and even at the start of the season, there was a scenario where he was backbiting with fans in a particular game. I think where there was a heavy expectation. There were huge favorites in terms of the spread, but they just about got over the line in that game. And since then, it's completely gone the other way, where this team are galvanized. And there's been conversation from certain players in the locker room, including Saquon Barkley, who said something along the lines of, "You think this is bad? I've had very bad situations. This is nothing. This is nothing. We just need to get our heads together here.
Yeah.
We have a huge opportunity to win this division and make waves in the playoffs." And it's really gone that way. Do you see the situation where it's the enormity of the players that they've got around them that it's a huge benefit to Sirianni, or has he actually stepped up to the plate this year in terms of his coaching ability?
Sirianni, I think, deserves a lot of credit that he's not getting for facilitating. I think what he has done is created a strong and consistent message for the Eagles, which is something they need. They needed to be steady. Vic Fangio has been a huge part of that, right? You mentioned the tail off at the end of last season. The defense was arguably, by the end of last year, the worst defense in the NFL. It really was. And so Fangio brought some stability and some professionalism to it, to the locker room, to how they practiced. But yeah, you have to credit Sirianni for, even if it was delegating, saying, "Hey, Vic, you're the head coach of the defense. I'm going to handle this over here. I'm going to make sure the guys are all ready to go every week, and that'll be my role." I do think Sirianni, listen, 2 Super Bowl appearances in the last 3 years. And even though he's not calling the plays, Kellen Moore is, he is tinkering with it and making sure that they're leaning into what their bread and butter is, not what they ideally were trying to do in camp, which was throw the ball around the field. They recognize it's the offensive line, it's Barkley, and it's playing off of that. And Sirianni deserves credit for facilitating all of it.
Kieran, Saquon Barkley is a player close to our hearts, so it's been a difficult year to watch the experience of how well and how productive. It doesn't come as a surprise to us. We spoke about it. He's got a really strong offensive line there. But are you more impressed about the character of Saquon Barkley this year? Because we all know he's got the talent, but the way he's galvanized this team, everyone seems to be on his page in terms of wanting to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, anybody that saw Saquon in college at Penn State knew that he was destined for a great career in the NFL. And he's pretty much the same kind of player as he was back then. Humble, hardworking. He doesn't talk trash. He's not flashy. He's a family man. He's getting married soon. That's the kind of guy he is. There's no, he's kind of the antithesis of a I don't want to say a diva running back, but he's almost like a workman's kind of running back. No airs or graces, just wants to put in the work and just wants to win. You can see how much he loved being with the Giants. He desperately wanted the Giants to be able to win, but he got to the stage where, obviously we all know the short shelf life of a running back. Tomorrow is not promised a day for running back. So he, and any Giant fan, and we're Giants fans, any Giant fan don't wish him, any ill will, any real Giants fans, because the career could be done tomorrow. But saying that, nobody wanted him to go to Philadelphia. But, it's not a situation where he's rubbed the Giants fans' noses in it. He's been everything that Giants fans would kind of expect from him. He's always, during in media week, he talked about, he's got nothing but love for the Giants fans. And that's a testimony to the kind of character that he is. Obviously, we don't want, Giants fans wouldn't want the Eagles to win tomorrow, but you would like Saquon to have a good game, and you want nothing but the best for Saquon. He's a classy guy. He's a really good person. So, to have him in a position where he can finally showcase his talents, because with the Giants, all he needed was an O-line. And we see what happens when he's got an O-line. He's getting those channels. And, with the Giants, he would get a 40, 50-yard breakout maybe once every 3-4 games. Now with the Eagles, it's pretty much every game he's getting a 60-yard burner or more. So that's just testimony to the strength of And everybody talks about it. Everybody that knows football knows it starts with the O-line. And when you have that in place, your running back's able to run. That's really how it is.
Pat, you recall last offseason where the running backs, there was a heavy number of running backs available in free agency, and they weren't getting the contracts in which they desired from certain teams. Jonathan Taylor probably did get that contract with the Colts. Saquon obviously was back and forth with the Giants to negotiate. And there was a conversation, this is a general conversation for running backs, that they get banged up. You see the Chiefs bring in a 7th round and Pacheco, he takes over, and you can get great value, which the Giants have done Tyrone Tracy. But are you surprised how well he's played in terms of he's had the injuries, had serious injuries? Not like he's been niggling injuries where he's missed one game. He's had season-ending injuries a number of years, and he's come back. Okay, he's flourishing with the Eagles, but he hasn't had any injury whatsoever.
I would say I'm not surprised he's had a better season and a way better season. I did not see coming this meteoric supernova over 2,000 yards. If you remember, what's interesting about this, Saquon, part of his desire to make more money and to put his foot down on his value was that he felt like he was more than a running back. He was a receiving threat out of the backfield. The Eagles really haven't used him that much as a receiving threat. They've just unlocked everything about his greatness as a home run hitting running back. You mentioned it. It's every week, 60 yards, 80 yards. The thing about Saquon is, this is why he's staying healthy too. Knock on wood, it continues that way. It's because in New York, he was dancing in the backfield, avoiding someone who was creating pressure right out of the gate off the snap. In Philadelphia, he is able to get to the second level on a straight line at full speed. So not only does that mean home run hitting, it also means he's not in these awkward cuts and planting his legs and trying to spin out of a tackle for a 3-yard loss as two guys are caving down upon his knee or his ankle or whatever it is. That's what it is. It was so interesting. I was talking to Lee Steinberg, super agent, the movie Jerry Maguire is based on him. He told me yesterday on my podcast, he said that the Giants letting Saquon Barkley go to the Eagles, he thinks is the biggest mistake since the Red Sox sent Babe Ruth to the Yankees. And I think it's hard to disagree with that in terms of, you think of home run hitter, right? You think of a legacy defining season and impact immediately. You think of a player who is larger than life, but like you said, when you get up closer to him, he's a human being.
Absolutely.
This is what they're missing in New York. They have to rethink everything because they let a guy like this walk. And another guy I was talking to actually just a couple hours ago for a story in the Daily News on Sunday previewing this game is Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator from Michigan. He told me that Saquon is such a leader, to your point, that the only person that comes to mind comparable to him as a non-quarterback who has led a team like this is Ray Lewis when they won a Super Bowl together with the Ravens in 2012. This is the level of player and person that the Giants let go and that the Eagles got.
Kieran, to Pat's point, in terms of potentially being the best free agency pickup, does that also tail into the fact that we had so much exposure and content last summer to watch around the nature of how the deals transpired, around the back and forth conversation with his agent, assurances that he wouldn't go to Philadelphia? Philly is out, but that wasn't the case. And I hit home when he tweeted that afternoon. I think it was 5 o'clock Irish time. And we see on NFL Network, the fly could fly. It was the only tweet. And then all of a sudden, okay, that's where he's going. And the huge take back. Is there another leverage for the Eagles fans and for the organization back at the Giants because we got to see firsthand how it played out?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, we all remember the Hard Knocks episodes, and we remember John Mara in the room saying that he's going to have trouble sleeping if he goes to the Eagles. And sure as hell, that's what happened. It was a nightmare scenario for all Giants fans. I mean, Eagles fans are just so thankful. It's another knife in the back of for Eagles fans, for Giants fans, and it's just thanks so much for Saquon. You really helped us out here. We can't believe we got him. Keep doing that stuff. But it's as Giants fans, the last team that you wanted him to go to was the Eagles. But again, like I said earlier, you don't wish any bad intentions or any ill will against Saquon. He's shown himself to be just a class operator. But just the fact that he went to the Eagles and the fact that was all televised, shown as it happened, rubs more salt in it. Every single week in 2024, when Saquon ran something up, the commentators are talking about Joe Shane's decision, about the clip from Hard Knocks. And it's just a never-ending nightmare for Giants fans. And that's what makes it even harder. It's not even the fact that Saquon is with the Eagles and having a great season. That's great. Good for him. He's a quality running back, and that was always in his DNA. We saw it at Penn State when he was a senior there. But it's the fact that it's a recurring nightmare that every commentator Every social media person brings it up. Oh, how could the Giants have let him go? This is what the Giants let go out the door. Saquon again showing the Giants what a mistake they made. And it's just a recurring theme week on week, and it's culminating now at the Super Bowl.
I'll tell you one surreal thing that happened the other night for me was during the NFL Honors Show when Saquon won the Offensive MVP award. The Eagles released a video on social media of all their players like Jordan Mailata, Cooper DeJean, Devontae Smith, all these guys saying how much they appreciate him. It was so strange to see Eagles players be the ones saying that because I've spent time at Saquon's locker 5 or 6 years, whatever it was in New York, talked to all his teammates when he was there, when he's not. They should be the ones who are on that video.
Yeah.
Darius Slayton, Daniel Jones, all the guys who know him way better than Eagles players who haven't even known him for a calendar year. And they're the ones saying what a leader, what a contributor, all of that. It was just a really, really weird moment for Giants.
And the fact he still has 26 makes it even worse.
Pat, look, Spagnuolo's going to have a plan tomorrow. We've seen it time and time again, every Super Bowl. If they can put the plan into effect and shut him down, not necessarily in terms of the big plays in particular, I'm sure they'll be happy to give him the 3 or 4 yard type of play. Just shut down those big monster plays. Do you think the Eagles are equipped to pivot from Saquon and go to the AJ Brown defense? Because we haven't seen the numbers in the playoff victories. AJ Brown has been very slim in terms of receptions. He looked like he was slightly frustrated. I think now he's at a stage where he's acknowledging the bigger picture, which is ultimately to win the Super Bowl. That kind of worries me for this team. Dallas Goedert, for me, probably would be the more effective player, and he's a tight end.
I think they can attack in a calculated way successfully in the passing game. I don't think if they depart from Saquon and lean completely on Jalen, that it will go well for Philadelphia. I do agree with you that you look inside at either Dallas Goedert or Devontae Smith. Smith's name came up a lot this week in talking to people around the league about if the Eagles attack well in the passing game to complement Saquon and Jalen running, who the X factor will be, because it's too many weapons, and him on the inside running out of the slot could do a lot of damage. Arguably the fastest player on the field on Sunday outside of Xavier Worthy. And so I look at that and I say, I do believe the Eagles understand we want to stick by Saquon. My bigger concern is, yes, Spagnuolo. It's also Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. We know he loves to throw the ball. Even when the run is working, he wants to throw the ball. I think it's more like discipline on his part, because you hit the nail on the head. You look at that Texans-Chiefs game early in the playoffs. In the fourth quarter, Spags finds a way to isolate Dalton Schultz, the tight end, who does not block well. George Karlaftis ends up with 3 sacks in about 8 minutes of game time, and that's the game. And, you look, people talk about the quarterback, Stroud didn't get it done. That's what happened in the fourth quarter. And so Philadelphia could be susceptible to that too if Spagnuolo is not countered by Moore being smart about how he's deploying everybody.
Kieran, we saw key moments over the last year with Spagnuolo in terms of the opportunity to call the play at a real precision moment in the game. Last year's Super Bowl, for example, Brock Purdy's driving this team. It looks like they're going to get into field goal range, potentially get a winning kick. They needed that force down. He comes for the cornerback blitz, gets home to Brock Purdy. Similar play called against Josh Allen. With Josh Allen, we've seen all the nature of social media. People saying, "Oh, Josh Allen should have thrown it this way and that way." But yeah, he's got 3 guys literally in his face. But again, it was that absolute key moment. Is that the situation tomorrow? Is he going to be dialing? I know he's going to dial it up throughout the course of the game, but it's like, will he be holding stuff back for the situation come the fourth quarter?
Well, I think a player is going to have a massive impact. Obviously, he's a superstar. Is Chris Jones? I mean, we saw in the Commanders game the issues they had with Jurgens and Dickerson. Now, those 2 guys, you can't tell me they're healthy, despite the fact that they have 2 weeks off. Spagnuolo is going to be targeting that particular area, and it's an area he's going to exploit. Because he doesn't want Jalen Hurts getting happy feedback there and just picking targets. He's going to have Chris Jones and Karlaftis and somebody who's very unheralded, Mike Dana, just coming on the left side. Phenomenal player. Spag shows blitz a lot of the times. He's got fast, athletic linebackers, and not even to mention Trent McDuffie and Watson and Reed back there. But between Tranquil and Nick Bolton, he's going to dial up every kind of play. Those guys they're going to be moving constantly, showing this, showing that, and they're going to keep, not only that whole Eagles O-line on their feet, but especially Hurts coming around the corner. So I expect Spagnuolo, like we discussed a little earlier, Spags is going to be dialing everything up. We've seen it all year. He's the most imaginative, most creative defensive coordinator probably in the game. Going back to maybe Buddy Ryan back in the day with or even the Tampa 2 defense, but just able to create such, ingenious kind of plays and just come out of nowhere. But what's phenomenal about the Chiefs, every single player on that defense, bar Drew Tranquil, has been drafted by the Chiefs. They all have 1 to 2 Super Bowl rings. That culture has been created through the draft process, not through free agency. They've created these players. They've created the players in the mold that they want, and they've been with Spags since day one. They bought into it, and they practice it, and they utilize it every single game, which is why they're winning these close games.
Pap, I guess you could say the Eagles have done a very similar approach defensively this year, and all the players in which have come in the draft have contributed significantly in this team. It's not a case of one player here, one player there. Every game, consistent performances, huge plays in particular moments. Any scenario you see tomorrow where the enormity of this occasion could become too much for young players, because the Chiefs seem to be able to have to handle that over the last few years. They have their own rookies in their own right, as Kieran's alluded to, going into this, but they've got the nature of a team that's won other Super Bowls, so they can fall back on these guys to say to the Kelseys, say to Mahomes, in this situation over the course of the week, how do I deal with it? And I know the Eagles are 2 years removed, but these guys aren't 2 years removed from being in the Super Bowl, and it's quite a lot of players contributing, but will they contribute on the big stage?
That's a really good question. I think that's more of an X factor as I think about it when you ask me than I realized at first. The name that jumps out in my mind, not that he won't thrive, but Quinyon Mitchell on the outside, the rookie corner from Toledo. Let's say he draws DeAndre Hopkins in the red zone in a critical situation. He could play that play perfectly, and Hopkins could grab the ball off the top of his helmet. He's that kind of talented player. And so if you get beat early on, like if you're Quinyon Mitchell and you lose that one-on-one matchup, does that get into the back of your head, right? And Xavier Worthy on the other side, another rookie who hasn't shown it's too big for him. Do you see it come to pass where he's not able to contribute the same way because the lights are a little bit too bright and this stage is something he's never been on before? I mean, to your point, the Eagles are relying on so much youth on that defense with DeJean. Even, it was interesting, I was talking to Cornelius Lucas of the Washington Commanders. He's a tackle the other day. And I asked him to pick a non-obvious player who was going to make an impact in the game, and he picked Jalix Hunt. It's like a rotational young edge rusher on the Eagles. Yeah. And he said, he kind of just gave us a bunch of problems. He didn't even know his name at first. He just knew his number. But so, to your point, the Eagles are here because they have been getting a lot out of those young players in key spots. So I think it's going to be a wait and see. I think Mitchell, though, is the one where if he does the same job he's done throughout the season, it'll fall in line for the Eagles. If the Chiefs attack him with success early, then doubt could start to creep in.
I'll show this out to the boat. You can X factor for the Chiefs, and not necessarily Patrick Holmes, more of a player which experienced player have they brought in for this particular occasion? DeAndre Hopkins, your Hollywood Brown, players that are, really want to win the Super Bowl, and they've been given this opportunity to go to this team. We saw DeAndre Hopkins on Monday speak about, I'm relieved that the Titans allowed me this opportunity to go to a winning team, to put myself in a position where I can play. And he hasn't had the most productive of season. But to Pat's point there in terms of going after a young cornerback, is this the moment where we say, this is what he was brought in for, this huge game, this huge play that we'll be thinking about 5 years' time going, remember that huge DeAndre Hopkins play? And whilst he didn't have a great season, he thrived in the big occasion and came to the big play. But who is that X factor? Is it Hollywood Brown? Is DeAndre Hopkins? Is there another player on that Chiefs team? I'll go with you, Kieran.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be, or it could be an obvious choice, is Pacheco. Pacheco missed a big chunk of the season. He came back healthy towards the end of the season. And we talk about running backs that play like the hair on fire, like it's the last play in the league. And that's Pacheco. He just runs with his hair on fire, making huge plays. He'll run, he'll run through a brick wall for 2 yards. I think he's a kind of guy that will play like it's his last game. He'll play the Super Bowl like it's his very last game. He'll put his body on the line, and he'll do whatever it takes to get a first down or even an extra yard. I think he's going to – the fact that he's come back and, through missing a lot of the season through injury, he's fresher. He's not – he hasn't been banged up like a lot of the other players. And we've seen his ability, not a heralded running back, but, again, somebody who can, put his body on the line and make plays because he's that determined. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pacheco runs up for 70, 80 yards and a touchdown.
But they could be lead with him, and then Kareem Hunt takes care of the business in the red zone. Pat, similar question. Any particular player?
Kareem Hunt was my answer. So I like that idea of that 1-2 punch. I think, I was talking to an NFL defensive player earlier this week, and he said the thing about Kareem Hunt is whatever he weighs, like whether it's 240 or 238 or 252, that defensive players who try to tackle him, they say he weighs all of it. When he hits you, You feel it, and you're not ready for it. And so I think the Chiefs offense, the longer they can stay on the field, the more they can buy time for that one play Mahomes needs to make. Because you all know he only needs to make one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Saquon's going to generate all of the attention at the running back position in this game going in for good reason. But I do agree that Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, that Chiefs backfield, if they get going, that's how they will control the game.
We're holding your pick for later in the show, but Pat, final piece for you before we go to a break.
Yeah.
After all the talk of the week, Radio Row, the craziness in New Orleans, who do you believe is going to be standing with the Lombardi come 8:30, 9 o'clock tomorrow night local time?
I got a very specific prediction in my mind. So it's going to be 33-21 Eagles. It's going to be 27-21 in the fourth. Chiefs have the ball. This game is going to come down to Jalen Carter sacking or hitting Patrick Mahomes and whether the flag comes out or not. I think he's going to pressure Mahomes, whether it's a fumble return for a touchdown or a pick six. I like the Eagles' defense to put the finishing touch on really being the key reason, along with Saquon, why they're here and why they're going to get it done. Saquon Barkley gets the MVP, and the Eagles take it home.
Well, the Eagles got home to Tom Brady on their first Super Bowl victory a couple of years ago to end the game in a similar circumstance to what Pat is alluding to there. Pat Leonard coming on the Irish NFL Show. Really appreciate your time, Pat. We're going to go to a short break, and we will be back with Matt Derrick from the Chiefs Digest.
Welcome back to the Irish NFL Show's preview of Super Bowl 59. We are here in New Orleans. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, thank you very much for joining us here. This is, how many Super Bowls have you covered now? You must be sick of coming to these things.
4 in person, 5 in total with the COVID year. And no, I mean, elements of it do get a little tiresome, but no, I mean, it's an electric atmosphere. So I don't think how you could ever get tired of attending, covering, playing in the Super Bowl. It's a magical experience. It really is.
Yeah, it definitely is. And obviously for myself and Noel, it's our first time experiencing what stood out to me earlier in the week. I was saying earlier in the program is how when the Chiefs went on the stage in the opening ceremony, I don't know if you were here on Monday night for that, there was certainly a sense of confidence. A lot of Chiefs fans in the stadium made the journey early, made themselves known. We know that the fans there are loud, but there was definitely a sense of belonging there for the Chiefs. I mean, in terms of the mentality that they've had all the way through the season, all the way through this current dynasty, I suppose we can use that word, I think, the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era. Is that something that we've seen previously, or has that confidence been building because of how many more rings they keep amassing among their reign?
Yeah, I think it really has been building because, this team, when they first went, everybody in the team was excited. It was a magical experience for everybody. But as the years go by, yeah, I mean, the experienced players, the guys who've been there 2, 3, 4 times, it's not that they get tired of it. No, I mean, but they get a little bit more calm. And so, this week I've sensed a lot of quiet confidence from this Chiefs team. And, and there's a couple of things that are going on, obviously, with this group. Not only do they have a lot of veterans, but they also have some guys who are here for the first time, and they want to win for those guys. So there's that camaraderie element of it, too, to try and get those players rings. But, yeah, I've sensed nothing but really with this team. Like I said, I think it's been a quiet confidence that they could get the job done this week.
Very good. And I guess, so Noel, I know we were talking earlier about sort of, I guess, the need for the Eagles to put the pressure on. I'm going to ask both of you, I guess, in terms of is there a need for them to sort of take down the Eagles or bring the pressure to the Eagles as well? Because sort of I surmised earlier that that for this, because the Chiefs are coming in with the sense of aura, knowing full well they're two-time reigning champions, with the record that they've had throughout the season, that really the Eagles need to go after them. And maybe that's an underdog mentality that the Eagles come into this. But as we've seen previously, the Chiefs have had no problem building a mentality in their own heads and sort of making sure that, you know, they feel either that the world is out to get them, or that there's a sort of siege mentality, or that they are underdogs in their own way. So Noel, I guess first you, in terms of the way that the Chiefs have been able to handle it or manage this, do you think that they will be going out to try and put a stamp on it early in the game, or will they be sort of relying on the fact that they can generally build into the second half of games? So, way do you think they'll be able to approach this?
Yeah, it's interesting to say, because, you know, we talked before how previously they've gone 10 points behind in some of these games, and they're able to go back into it. And I think I don't know if they'll go pushing too hard too early. You know, I think you talked about the confidence they have. They have that quiet confidence in their game. You know, Andy Reid has his game plan, and you know, I think they stick to that. So I don't know if they push too hard. But you have Pat Mahomes there, and you know, he does enough. We talked earlier, maybe the stats don't jump off the page. They don't do anything, say, overly explosive, kind of like a Saquon Barkley maybe, but they're methodical. They know what they're doing. They have good, solid players who are able to really hurt teams. You know, we know what Kelsey's like, especially in the playoffs, when he steps up, setting records in terms of receiving in the playoffs. Championship or more, you know, and that's the confidence they have, and they've earned that confidence, and they've a right to all of that confidence. And I think they'll just go and play their normal game, and the Eagles will maybe have to come after them. And we've seen it year in, year out, even if they go behind, it doesn't matter. They have the players, they have the confidence, they have the winning mentality to just go and kick it up a gear when they need to kick it up.
Matt?
Yeah, you know, if you go back 2 years ago to the last time that these two teams met, and it's a different Chiefs defense. They gave up a lot of points that night to the Eagles, and that's why, you know, that it became the game that it was. You know, and the Chiefs know that they can come from behind 10 points. They know that. They just don't want to do that. They prefer not to. So what do they want to do in this game? I think they want to try and get the game into the hands of Jalen Hurts. As good as he is, as good as he was last time, they would like to be able to take Saquon Barkley out of the game. They would like to establish a lead early, force the Eagles to put the ball into the hands of Hurts, throwing the football, because they have not been strong at that this year. And that now versus 2 years ago is a real strength for this team, because, you know, you think about Steve Spagnuolo's defense, and even though he'd been in Kansas City 4 years at that point, he had that Fab Five defensive backs with Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams. You had new starters at a lot of different places. Nick Bolton was only in year 2. Leo Chenal, rookie. You had a lot of players who were just buying into the system. Now you've got all of those guys who are experienced, and that's why you go to a play like 4th and 5 against Buffalo when they brought that blitz. That's a blitz they couldn't have run 2 years ago. And Steve Spagnuolo, giving him 2 weeks for a game plan is dangerous, because he can pick apart a defense, and now he's got the experienced players to implement it. I think that's a big advantage to the Chiefs. But once again, I mean, Saquon Barkley is explosive. If he gets hot and gets going and the Chiefs fall behind, this could be a real problem for Kansas City.
It's a good point you bring up about Steve Spagnuolo's defense and that play against Buffalo, because I remember watching that thinking, Buffalo have given the Chiefs way too much time here to bring up exactly what is the right thing they need to do at this moment. That's something they've just gotten progressively better at as we go along, in terms of the guys they've brought in terms of the way they've been able to coach. And certainly the level of togetherness within that group. You know, I imagine you've been talking to even more Chiefs players than I have during the week. Is there a sense on the defensive side of the ball in terms of how they really like playing under Spags? What is it they like about him? What is it, that magic of Spags ball that really helps sort of make things tick for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, a lot of them will start off and say that it's his wife Maria's meatballs, because her pasta is out of this world. Apparently, I would kill to get one of Maria's meatballs. But he's a fatherly figure for these guys. He's tough on them, but at the same time encouraging. And and Andy Reid talks about this. The one thing that players look for, and if they want to be good and want to be great, is they look for coaches who will give them one thing to make them better. And Spags is one of those guys. He identifies players, but what they can do, but then he figures out, what is it they need to make them better. And a great example of that this year would be, you go back to the rookie minicamp, first time on the field, a week after they got drafted, he was out there with Jaden Hicks on the field, one-on-one, showing him how to, hide a blitz, showing him how not to tip it off to the quarterback, showing him the moves and what he needs to do. That's what Spags does with each individual player. And, his experience, the fact that, they've gotten to know him over these years, that's the one thing that, the guys say, is that you spend time with Spagnuolo and you learn to know how he thinks. Yeah. And that's a big part of how I think that they're able to play as fast and effectively as they do.
You think Spags will stay on after this game, or is there a potential for him to move on to become a head coach elsewhere?
I doubt he's moving on. There's not a lot of opportunities right now, and it's going to be tough at Spags' age. He's, I think, 67. It's going to be tough for him to get an opportunity. He should. I mean, he's a great coach, and a coach. If you need a coach to build a culture, I think Spags can do that. He had his previous experience with St. Louis. It was not the greatest of scenarios. I think he'd be a fantastic coach, but I do think he's going to be back in Kansas City next year.
Right. Well, we've gotten this far, I think, roughly an hour into the show without mentioning the one word which I think triggers a lot of people in terms of Kansas City, and that's refs.
I thought you were going to say Taylor Swift.
No, I feel like Taylor Swift is the one going around all these helicopters all the time. I don't know what's like her security detail that's in town or something. So let's kind of get into that, because I think there's two narratives going. There's a lot of people who maybe are sort of Chiefs deniers, whatever, are saying, oh my God, look at this again. The Chiefs are getting away with it on these bad calls. We know that against the Texans that, name escaped me, the co-commentator from ESPN for Cowboys quarterback.
Tony Romo.
Not Tony Romo.
Troy Aikman.
Troy Aikman.
Yes, Troy Aikman was the problem.
So Troy Aikman was like, oh my God, you got to call that. These referees are terrible, yada, yada, yada. And there's another side of things that are like, has anybody asked whether these Chiefs team are just better coached to be able to put themselves in situations where they get the calls on their side, because that's the way the game is played. Those are the rules. That's the rules are written. The same with the Patriots, same with all the winning teams, not only in American football, but we see it happen in soccer and Gaelic football a lot as well. That is just the nature of building a winning attitude. So maybe those are two extremes. The truth is always somewhere in the middle. What has been your view on, I guess, one of the kind of big, maybe internet controversies that have followed the Chiefs this season?
It's interesting, especially if you look at the long, big picture, because, when Andy Reid first got to Kansas City, his team, they had some talent, but they needed to play perfectly to win. So he coached discipline. He coached not making penalties. And the Chiefs were one of the least penalized teams in the league. When you get more talent, when you get guys like Chris Jones, or a great example is last year, L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed was one of the most penalized guys in the team, one of the most penalized guys in the league for using his hands, whether it was holding, pass interference. But that was the cost of doing business. That's what Spags said. When you got a player like that, it's the cost of doing business. There's some players that you have like that. But then again, you look at the big picture. Okay, look at the stats in the regular season. I think the Chiefs were mid-teens, middle of the pack as far as, penalized teams. They're getting more penalties in the regular season. Postseason, it changes. So how does it change? Well, one, to your point, they're more experienced, I think. They're also more disciplined because they're certainly more focused. That's one thing you see. And then there's simple things like a majority of their flags that they get are for holding. What happens in the postseason in the NFL? Refs don't call holding as much. Yeah. It just goes down dramatically. So that's one thing that tilts in the Chiefs' favor. But are the officials looking out for the Chiefs? I just don't buy it.
No, I don't buy it either. But at the same time, I can, it is always something that just follows around. And so when you're watching the game, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I remember watching the Bengals game against, and there was that call at the end which ended up giving the Chiefs a chance to kick the winning field goal. I was like, oh, I can't believe this. But there's a difference in your instant reaction watching it back after, thinking, actually, do you know what? was kind of fair enough. I think that was
Sorry,
certainly
Shane,
what
just
you said
on
as
something
well.
like that as well. I mean, obviously, as a New England fan, there was a point when New England were top of the pile that people used to think they got all the calls and the favourites.
Oh no, never. Refs hated us, obviously.
But sometimes when you're just a
They
top
got a little
dog, you
kiss
know,
in Kansas City once or twice.
Yeah. No, I will say though, Mahomes is smart, and he does have that little shimmy when he's going out of bounds, and suddenly he kind of stops just at the line. And
Smart play.
but it is because if that gets you 15 yards, it's beneficial to the team as long as you don't get yourself hurt. Somebody doesn't come in and really lay a smack in there. But look, I don't think they do get the calls, as people are saying. Sometimes when you're just the best team and you're winning, it can get a bit frustrating for fans, and then maybe but look, who knows? Hopefully this weekend after this game, there's no talk. Referees aren't mentioned. It's just one team went out and won. And that's the topic.
Oh, what are the odds of us leaving this game and not a single referee call is mentioned? Let's be fair about this. What, 200 million people watching this game around the world? Someone's going to complain about something, even if it's not validated. That's definitely we're always going to something about the referees. Always going to bring in some class of talking points.
That's sport.
We were mentioning Taylor Swift earlier, and let's go on to the footballer and that side of relationship, which of course is Travis Kelce. Interesting, we've had a chance to see him a couple weeks again. He's somebody who generates a lot of attention for various different reasons, but his talent is still a huge part of that. The fact that he's still a key component as what Patrick Mahomes does. But it's interesting to see how his usage develops over the course of the year. It's considering the Chiefs are almost masters at playing one style of football in regular season and saving their good stuff for the off season when it really counts. Their use of Travis Kelce has been really big in that. What kind of role do you foresee him having in this game tomorrow?
Oh, it could be huge, especially because I think that one of the weaknesses that the Eagles have is in the middle of the field. And, the Chiefs would love to be able to get Travis Kelce matched up on those linebackers. Obviously, N'Keal Dean is out. Oren Burks, one of the Eagles linebackers, was with San Francisco last year. Yeah. He filled in for Dre Greenlaw when he got hurt with his Achilles. And Travis Kelce went off in the second half against Oren Burks. So, that potential is there. If you're the Eagles, I think you have to find a way to match up with the safety, bracket Kelce, double team him in some way. You have to do that. But I was given a note this week that last year, according to the Next Gen stats, Travis Kelce's fastest speed of the entire season last year was in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. So that tells you that even after a 20-21 game season, this guy still has the adrenaline and the energy and the juice for that final game of the season.
He is definitely the ultimate big game player now.
Oh, no, absolutely. Look, I mentioned there that he's setting records in the postseason when it comes to himself and Mahomes playing together. I mean, he may have a quiet game every now and then. I know people did kind of question, are we coming toward the end? But then he showed you, just like this Chiefs team, when it's on the line and it needs to be done, these guys are like a machine. They just go and they just do what they need to do. And he is obviously going to be a top player this weekend and someone who really could change this game and push it in one direction.
Right, let's go to the what makes Chiefs fans scared a little bit when they look at what they're facing against in the Philadelphia Eagles. As a semi-familiar opponent, but of course they faced against each other in Super Bowl 57. We know that the Eagles are coming into this with the number one scoring defense in the league. We know they have Saquon Barkley, a really added level of X factor. We know how good their offensive line is. There really is a lot to like about the Eagles, which if you're a Chiefs fan might give cause to worry. Is there one particular aspect that you're looking at to think, okay, the Chiefs' weakness actually might be exposed here, but what the Eagles can do on their side of the ball?
I mean, the one area where the Chiefs have struggled at times has been in getting pressure on the quarterback. And, and that's one of the reasons why sometimes that they have had to blitz. It's not just situational blitzing, but it has been out of necessity to get pressure on a quarterback. That's why it's absolutely crucial in this game that they're able to get pressure with four. They want to be able, to maintain their linebackers to defend against Saquon Barkley. They want to be able to use, frankly, their defensive backs and their corners, because Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson are great run defenders. So they want them to be able to go after Barkley and not be worrying about blitzing or bringing an extra defender. So getting pressure with those four, and that's why Chris Jones is going to be critical, because you look at that, Eagles offensive line, and Cam Jurgens has been banged up at center. Landon Dickerson's injured. They've got a backup on the other side. They've had injuries across that line, and they're strong on the outside. But if Chris Jones, Tershawn Wharton, Mike Pennell, those guys can get the pressure inside and really wreak havoc on the inside, and get pressure and get in Jalen Hurts' face without having to bring an extra defender, that to me could really be a key to the ballgame.
And there's an interesting point about the way that the Chiefs been able to evolve over the last couple of years. The fact that this isn't just a going for the three-peat. The fact that they've been at the top of the game for all of this decade so far. Generally speaking, when teams are at that level, it's very difficult to keep things fresh because other teams learn what you're doing and completely decode it. That's funny enough. I think what happened to the Eagles last year, that they were exceptionally strong, and midway through the season, people found a way to break them down, and they've had a collapse in the second half of last season. That hasn't happened to the Chiefs. What is it about Andy Reid and the way that his team, his players, the fact we were mentioning earlier in the show that the draftees that they've been able to bring in have all pretty much hit well? What is it about the way they've been coaching, the culture inside the building that has kept you having to keep buying tickets to Super Bowls every year?
Yeah, the culture is the key word that you mentioned there, and that's something that talking with Clark Hunt, the chairman, owner of the team, Mark Donovan, who's team president, has known Andy Reid a long time. They always lay on the culture. They're talking about just what Andy Reid brings, but it's leadership too, because talking to the players this week and working on a story about just kind of Andy Reid's presence, and they tell you when Andy Reid walks into a room, he's got an aura. Even if you don't know Andy Reid and he walks into the room, you're drawn to it.
It's the power of the mustache.
You're immediately just like, okay, wait a minute, this guy's serious about something. This guy, I need to figure out what this guy's doing. And then you find out that he's a great teacher. You find out that he's all these things that you want in a leader and a teacher. All the players will say, Andy Reid walks into a room, you straighten up, you stop talking, everything focuses on him. And that's, I think, a big reason why that this team is what they are. I mean, are they going to make mistakes sometimes? Absolutely, every team does. But to Andy Reid, it's do you learn from that mistake? You stop making it. You're better the next time. And I think that's been a key to this team's growth over the years.
Obviously, you've been impressed with what Andy Reid's been able to do, Noel. I mean, is there something in particular which stands out to you that makes you think, okay, this guy could continue to keep doing this for 5 years, 10 years? He has it aura. It took him a long time to actually get to this point. We know that he was the head coach in Philadelphia, and he kind of needed to change the scenery in order to sort of to reach that next level. And even in Kansas City, it was a couple of years before they eventually got the recipe right. So I was like, the idea of him being the person to do the three-peat, I think, is something which a lot of football fans will be happy to see. I think we like him. We all respect the fact that he is a genius in his own right. But being able to keep things, fresh and keep things moving forward so long, as well as being able to command that respect, as Matt was saying, it's such a key part of what this dynasty is.
It is, and it is exactly what you said there. I mean, no matter whether a team is winning or losing, after a while, the same message can get, worn down, and players can kind of switch off from it. But that hasn't been the case here. So I guess it's obviously, running that franchise as well. And it's knowing the right players to bring in, the right attitude and the right mentality of players who you're bringing into that team. That's a massive part of how a team can be successful, because then you have those Mahomes and Kelsey and, leaders in the dressing room. And for me, it's just, we say it's experience, but it's just being able to keep it fresh. It's being able to have these superstars still turn around when you walk into a room and just stop and give you the room. And look, he's been a phenomenal head coach. It's going to go for another few years, I would imagine. And it'll be interesting to see if that can keep up. But I certainly wouldn't be betting against it keeping up year on year for the foreseeable future anyway.
Of course, we've talked about superstars. One person we haven't really touched on is, of course, the quarterback, Pat Mahomes. Probably the most shocking moment of the season for me is going up to that game, I think before, not the Christmas Eve, but the Christmas Day game. Before that, I think it was at home against the Houston Texans.
Yes.
And everyone's like, Mahomes carrying an injury, whatever. Oh, you see, he's running around like he's just, like he's a kid. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And even last time they played against the Eagles, I'm right in saying he was carrying an injury going to that game. Didn't phase him a single bit. That is the exact kind of leader you want. We can talk about skill. We can talk about ability to extend plays. But, Jesus, what a competitor. What a winner he is.
Oh, that's the amazing thing in watching Mahomes that stands out is just, how much he loves this game, how much he loves to win, and how much he hates losing. I mean, he answered it the other day very quickly. It was like, what was his, worst moment in his NFL career? And he mentioned very quickly, lost to Tampa Bay. No other discussion. That was it in the Super Bowl. And, and he lets the players know that. Everybody who comes to this team, he lets them know what the expectations are. That this is here to win Super Bowls, and you're supposed to help us win a Super Bowl. That's his message to these guys. And, it rings true. I mean, he really has been impressive. And to your point, his toughness is amazing. I mean, some of the plays that he does and bounces back from, there have been plenty of times that I thought this this is it. I mean, you're not going to see Patrick Mahomes for the rest of the game, and he's right. He's fine. Pops back up and lines back up.
I think it's an underrated part of his game, actually, how tough he is. Because we think about tough players. Do we think about Pat Mahomes in the top 5 players in the league? But yet, we were talking about Eli Manning earlier during the week, as he's someone who's never missed a game. Patrick Mahomes has not missed a game, ever. Or has he? When was the last time he missed a game?
He missed a couple of games with the dislocated kneecap a couple of seasons ago, but I think that was one game.
Yeah,
2 games and came back.
Like, that's seriously incredible stuff. And obviously, I mean, you know the guys in the locker room pretty better than us. It must sort of uplift them and must give them much more confidence. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, as somebody who came into the setup midway through the season, must have felt that kind of impact on him pretty quickly in terms of his ability now to win a Super Bowl and to play on one of the top teams in the league.
That's you talk about DeAndre Hopkins, and I'll bring Hollywood Brown into this conversation. He'll talk about it. Even Kareem Hunt, who was with this team once before and came back, it's a different team than when Kareem was there. I mean, they weren't winning Super Bowls back then. All of them will tell you that it's a different environment. DeAndre Hopkins has been with a few teams in the league. And he just says the moment you walk into that building, you see that it's different. The atmosphere is different. Everybody's pulling in the same direction. It's a winning environment. And so it's easy. I mean, for somebody like DeAndre, who's, never been this, certainly hasn't been this far in the playoffs, never got a chance to win a ring before. I mean, that's a big deal. It's the fact that everything is just so professional and organized. Not all teams in the NFL are like that. You think they all are professional, but they're not. They're not all. The fact that Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, these guys, Travis Kelce is a big part of, I think, that culture too. Because one of the things about Kelce, I mean, is that even at this age, 35, even the rookies are amazed at how hard he works, because he doesn't take plays off, even in practice. He does every workout, and that when you do that, it sets a tone.
Right, I'm going to press you for a prediction now in a second, but I guess firstly, in terms of people who are sitting back on Sunday night, as it will be in Ireland, watching the game, we know the big stars, the big hitters. Anybody in the Chiefs team who may not be one of the top 5 names we think of, who actually really could be the difference maker, somebody who we're looking out for and say, okay, if that person's performing well, the Chiefs have a pretty good chance here.
Yeah, if you really want to talk about maybe just players that may not be the big names, won't maybe put up big numbers on a box score, be MVP candidates, to me, it's going to be Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton has made big plays in the Super Bowl before. Remember, he had the turnover, touchdown against the Eagles 2 years ago. He has always come up for the Chiefs in big games and with big plays. And at that middle linebacker spot, he's going to be critical as part of the defense against Saquon and stopping the run. So that, to me, is a kind of an unsung hero potentially in this game.
All right, so how do you think this game is going to go?
I mean, I can't take the Chiefs winning anything other than a 1-score game. I mean, I think offensively they're going to get things done. So I'm probably inflating the score that I have in my head. I've been saying all week long, I'm going with the Chiefs 37-31. But if Patrick Mahomes comes out focused and not too amped up and throwing the ball a little loosey goosey early, if the Chiefs get rolling, get a first drive touchdown, get things up. I mean, this is the year that with going for the three-peat, they might just lay the smackdown on somebody.
All right, Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, same time next year?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Johnny Irish NFL Show. We'll be back after a quick break with our picks for the Super Bowl as we wrap up the show. Stay with us. Welcome back to the final section of our Super Bowl 59 preview here in the Irish NFL show. The helicopters are listening into us. Obviously, the content has really brought them in. Few thanks to get out of the way before we make our picks. Firstly, to none other partner than Jerry Shannon at QuimBet, who has been so supportive of us all year. Thank you very much for all that you've done for us. To Jerry and Fiona, to Kieran and Fiona, in Buskers on the ball. Their support has been huge as well. Make sure you check out their Super Bowl watch party. And to Kevin Fagan at Root Point as well for being a sponsor for us. There's plenty of people at home to thank as well. To Craig Rigdon, who is our producer today. He's in the background in his Giants sort of fan cave. He's been fantastic all year round doing graphics. He's a huge part of the operation. It doesn't get to sort of get on screen much, but the amount of work he does is simply incredible. Of course, to Kieran and to Connor at home, who've done so much work for us as well, and will be doing some work around the Super Bowl as well from Ireland. Of course, to our friends and families, and most of all to you, the Irish NFL Show fans, who without you, this would not be possible, and you've been so engaging with us over the last couple of years. And of course, in 2025, we have a game in Ireland to look forward to. It is going to be an incredible year, and please stick with us. We promise to bring alive, I think, this game that we love in this country that we love as well. This country, America, and of course, Ireland as well. So I think that's everybody, unless there's anybody I'm missing, Brian.
No, the families. That's for me is the huge part, because we do this and it's so much time that's involved in between the day job, families, and the show and the content and everything that goes with it. It's easy to do the podcast, the amount of work we have to do in the background. But you've called out all the people that fully support us. But I never lose sight of the people who our support from him and encouraging us to go and do this. So I really appreciate it back home. But yeah, let's get to the picks.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get down to business. So I guess we'll go from myself down in terms of
go this way. Go this way.
What?
So go this way.
Yeah, that's in like from here down.
I thought you were going to Kieran.
No, me first.
Oh, really?
I don't get my Brian out of the way first.
Get that out there.
Save the best to last.
My opinion is going to be the worst. So I'm getting out of the way now. Right? So I've been wrong about, I think, the last 4 Super Bowls in a row. In the last 2 years, I've picked against the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure I have anyway. So yeah, in terms of my pick for Super Bowl 59, I'm picking the Chiefs to win by a field goal. I think I'm going for a score of 30-27. I watched too much of this team to think that anybody can actually beat them. Doesn't matter how good the Eagles are. Doesn't matter the X factor that Saquon has. Doesn't matter that Vic Fangio has been able to run up a good defense. The Chiefs just know how to win games. They won't score more than 30 points. I think it's going to be a tight game. As hyped and all as Chris Brockman got me during the week that it could be a shootout. I think it'll be tight. You know, I can see Harrison Butker kicking that field goal with 3 seconds left, almost Adam Vinatieri style here in New Orleans. So yeah, I'm going for the Chiefs. Brian,
you have to get the Patriots piece in.
Listen, that's what I mean. That's why I'm getting in first. You know, putting a 2-foot tackle.
For me, inevitably, I think it's going to come down to coaching more so than the players, and we've kind of grilled it over the last hour and a half around the nature of Fangio, Kellen Moore, and Sirianni, but I just never get away from Spagnuolo. And Kieran raves about him, and he's right to do it, because he just finds ways in big moments to scheme in the most timely manner come the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl. Inevitably, I think Patrick Mahomes will be the MVP, because it just falls on the quarterback 9 times out of 10 to win that award, even if he doesn't have the best of games. I don't think he'd have to have the best of games, because, again, they kind of run this offense in a way where they'll just do enough, and then they'll lean on their defense to get them over the line. In terms of a score, I will go 27-23, and I think we're going into the fourth quarter with a 3-point game, and they'll find a way to get over the line. And we will witness history tomorrow, and the Chiefs will win back-to-back Super Bowls. Back to back. Yeah. All right, so that's Chiefs for me, Chiefs for you. Are we going for the three-peating picks now?
No, no three-peat coming now at the moment. No, I'm going Eagles. I mean, look, I'll be honest, I don't feel 100% convinced by it because of this Chiefs team, because of what we've talked about and the players they have and the winning mentality they have. But there's just something about this Eagles team I like this offense. I think if this offensive line has a good game, then Saquon Barkley has a good game, and Jalen Hurts can do enough there to complement that. I think Barkley will have a good game. He probably won't have a monster game, but I still I like the explosiveness of the Eagles offense, and I just think they're going to have enough for a 27-24 win. But as I say, I don't feel 100% on that because of the Chiefs, but I'm just going to be different to the rest of you lads. So yeah,
you're saying to be different, even though, like we were confident.
He wants to get on the flight Monday morning crying about, oh look, I was the only one who selected the Eagles.
Well, we don't know yet. We haven't heard Kieran's yet.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, that's good point. Round us off, Florida man. Let's go.
Giving the game away.
Pressure.
All right. Well, let me break it down in this way. Talking to Mike Florio yesterday, he made a great point about, until somebody dethrones this team, they are still the Kings. There's going to be a lot of situations in this game where the Eagles are going to look great. It's going to come down to who's performed excellently and phenomenally in past Super Bowls and past playoff games. Travis Kelce will show up big tomorrow. He's always good for 8 catches, 80 yards in any of the playoff games or the big playoff, the Super Bowl games. I expect it to be a huge defensive performance from the Chiefs. The linebackers are fast as hell. They're going to make life so difficult for Hurts. They're going to disrupt them. It's going to come down to that part. It's also going to come down to Kelce. I've said it all year. He always finds a way to get open. The battle between those Eagles linebackers, I forget the Zach Bond. With him, Travis Kelce always finds a way to get open. He's going to be good for probably 6 or 7 catches. He's going to make a huge difference in this game. For me, it's going to be 29-27 Chiefs. I just think it's going to be so close. But the Chiefs, again, they always find a way. We've been saying it all year. We've been saying it last year. Until somebody dethrones the king and until somebody proves that they can actually beat this team when it matters, I can't bet against the Chiefs. Kelce for the MVP. Chiefs 29-27.
Just dethrones the king. They should really call the Kansas City Royals. Oh, no, wait. That's a different team altogether. I think that's it, guys. We've done 50 live shows, 21 rounds of instant reaction podcasts. We've a little bit more obviously coming. I'll be in the stadium. I think a few of us will be in and around the stadium tomorrow as well. That's the season, right?
I want to call out Connor and Kieran because they are. I know you called them out, but I want to again, I suppose, call out the fact that they're a huge support to us in terms of the content as well at home. They're going to go live on Monday night to recap the Super Bowl from their perspective, watching it at home, and I believe they both picked the Chiefs as well. So now it is the lone wolf. Now, if we were on NFL Network, they'd be handing him the woolly thing to stick on his head.
Oh yeah,
I don't think we won't round them with no howling. So we'll leave it there.
Very much. Final thanks, by the way, has to go to the incredible CBS News crew who are letting us use their space. They're not only the best in the business, but the class of the business. There's Tim, there's John, and there's Matt. Thank you so much, guys. They're behind the camera. You guys won't see them. This is an incredible experience, and thank you very much for letting us do this. But for now, that's pretty much it from the Irish NFL Show. Thank you very much for joining us.